Ladies and gentlemen, the Marines' Hymn.
You may know the melody, maybe you even know the words, but do you know the story behind America's oldest and most famous military service song? The Marines' Hymn holds a special place in our nation's musical culture. For generations of Americans, this song has been a time-honored tribute to the United States Marine Corps and its enduring legacy. For Marines, the hymn represents much, much more. The song is a musical symbol of the Marine Corps' ethos. The words are a rallying cry and a reminder that each Marine is part of a centuries-old tradition of honor, courage, and commitment. Singing the hymn is one of the first traditions a Marine learns at recruit training.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of...
So who wrote the Marines' Hymn? While much of the story has been lost to time, the most likely history of the Marines' Hymn begins over 160 years ago. Not in the United States, but in France. In 1867, German-born composer Jacques Offenbach premiered a 3-act operetta in Paris titled Geneviève de Brabant. Now, you may not have heard of Jacques Offenbach, but you've probably heard his music. During the mid-19th century, Offenbach was a household name in America. His operettas, the forerunners of today's Broadway musicals, were well known throughout the country. His original version of Geneviève de Brabant was a commercial failure, but he hoped that a revision could sway critics and public opinion. In this new version, Offenbach added a comedic duet sung by 2 male actors portraying incompetent soldiers or men-at-arms, bragging about their exploits to one another. The song was an instant hit with audiences around the world, especially when it was translated into English. The earliest known connection between Offenbach's music and the U.S. Marine Corps began with this man, Francis Maria Scala, leader of the President's own United States Marine Band from 1854 to 1871. In 1868, Scala arranged Offenbach's duet as a dance number for the band. Since the Marine Band played at all the fashionable dances around Washington, including official White House balls, Scala was always looking for catchy tunes that could be arranged to fill out a set list. He rewrote Offenbach's duet, sped up the tempo, and slightly changed the melody, turning it into a quick-step march, one of the most popular dances at the time. Over the next 2 decades, the duet eventually made its way into the ears of rank-and-file Marines who dropped Offenbach's lyrics and began adding their own words to his melody. We don't know who first swapped the original lyrics for their own or why it became such a popular tune in the fleet. But what we do know is that thanks to Offenbach, the Marine Corps had met its melody. In 1888, John Philip Sousa, now leader of the Marine Band, was moved to tears after hearing his fellow Marines singing that melody at Quantico, Virginia. Sousa was so inspired by the event that he dedicated his next march, Semper Fidelis, to the officers and enlisted men of the United States Marine Corps. It remains the official march of the Marine Corps to this day. By 1892, there was already a popular verse being sung in the ranks. While the words varied depending on who was singing, the first 2 iconic lines, written by an unknown author, became legendary among Marines. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. These lines reference the 2 battles which defined the Corps in the 19th century. The Battle of Chapultepec in Mexico in 1847, and the 1805 Battle of Derna against the Barbary pirates in Tripoli. As the 20th century dawned and the United States continued to engage in conflicts around the globe, Marines began adding new verses to the hymn commemorating each battle that they fought in. From the Philippine insurrection to the Boxer Rebellion in China, to the Battle of Belleau Wood in France. Colonel Henry C. Davis, a decorated Marine officer deployed to Cuba during the Spanish-American War, was a gifted writer and is among those credited for adding what would become the 2nd and 3rd verses of the hymn just as they appear today. By 1914, the Marine Band was performing the Marines' Hymn on all of its concerts. The following year, Assistant Commandant Colonel John A. Lejeune wrote a memorandum which stated that Lieutenant William H. Sandelman, leader of the Marine Band, was creating a new arrangement of the old Marines' Hymn. The Commandant wanted it to be sent to all the bands in the Marine Corps. The new instrumental arrangement was published that summer and credited to Marine Band musician Edward M. Van Luke a talented clarinetist and composer who had immigrated from Belgium before joining the band. 3 years later, in 1918, the Marine Corps released a new, commercially available arrangement for voice and piano, written by Marine Band horn player and composer Arthur Trajena. This arrangement of the hymn soon went on sale in music shops and catalogs across the country. For the first time, Americans could sing and play the Marines' hymn in their own homes. During the decades between the wars, the song quickly became a staple of American patriotic music. The lyrics to the first verse in this new version now included the Marine Corps' slogan adopted during World War I, "First to fight." A decade later, the Marine Corps approved another change to the lyrics, altering the first verse again. Additional lyrics came and went, but over time the hymn was standardized into the 3 verses we know today. In the early days of World War II, General Thomas Holcomb, Commandant of the Marine Corps, approved the final change to the song's lyrics, adding the phrase "in the air" to "on land and sea" as a tribute to the air superiority of Marine pilots in the Pacific Theater. In the decades since, the Marines' hymn has become part of American popular culture. It's been played on the radio, sung on television, and is used as a soundtrack of classic Hollywood films. Even Bugs Bunny put on a uniform and sang through the hymn in support of the Marines during World War II. According to Marine Corps Order 5060 TAC 20, authorized on May 15, 2019, whenever the hymn is played around the world, Marines, when able, are to stand at attention and sing all 3 verses. This order marks the latest chapter in more than a century-long story that has made the Marines' hymn one of the most recognizable service songs in history. For Marines, singing the hymn is more than just obeying an order. It is an act of respect toward all who came before and a reminder of their duty to all those who come after. Over the centuries, this song has stirred men and women fighting in the most harrowing conflicts the world has ever seen. It has also been a comfort when the battles are over and they mourn lost friends and lost years. The Marines' hymn has helped to unite a country behind these brave soldiers of the sea. Singing it is an act of pride and reverence that unites those who have worn the Marine Corps uniform and represent our shared history, as well as the values of honor, courage, and commitment.